Everyone. Welcome to Lexer's webinar. I'm Ben Moreau. I'm VP of Southeast Asia for Lexer. I'm based in Singapore. I think we've got a Southeast Asian and Australian mixed audience joining. So good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today, the topic we're going to cover is from in-store retail to digital marketing, how you can unlock customer data for meaningful experiences. We're going to cover how important customer experience is in gaining the customer's dollar right now. It's pretty tough. And we're going to give a couple of examples of two techniques you can use to put your customer data to work to create these experiences, either from an in-store retail perspective or through from digital messaging to individuals. A little bit of housekeeping. We want it to be engaging, interactive. We are going to check you're awake with some polls. They'll be really quick and simple, and we'll short, sharp questions. Anything you want to ask, thoughts, please just I've got my eye on the chat box, as has Hazana from our events team. So I'll try and keep an eye on that as well and answer your questions. And yes, we are recording. It will be shared. So we will share this with you all, and anyone that joins in late after will receive, although they won't have heard that, but never mind. Okay, let's dive right into it. It's pretty tough in retail right now. Inflation is increasing, which is causing consumer spending to decrease. Post-COVID store traffic has come back, but it's pretty flat at the moment. And with those inflation rises, the margin pressure on retailers is increasing, as well as still a little bit of hangover of a need to run promotions and discounts, which is contributing to margin pressure as well. And with that, customer expectations have risen. Customers wanting to receive personalized customer experiences, and it's no longer a nice to have, it's sort of essential. To some data from McKinsey, 76% of customers get frustrated where there isn't personalized customer experiences. But on the flip side, the data shows that when customers do receive a personalized experience, actually you can boost the spend from that customer by up to 40%. And so when consumer spending is down, for you to be able to create those relevant personalized experiences, understanding your customers is more critical than ever. More data from McKinsey. They know that marketers and companies that don't figure out a way to sort of grow and invest in their first-party data are actually going to have to invest elsewhere and will be left behind. So if you don't understand your customers and invest in your first-party data, you're going to have to spend more either on top of funnel digital marketing to bring more customers to the brand, or on promotions and sales, which again, both of those lead to eating into your margins just to stay in the same place. And in-store is no different. I think for probably most of the audience here, 90% of their sales or so are coming from in-store. It's obviously a more immersive experience than a digital one. And it's no surprise that in-store customer experience has a huge impact, but it's really hard to provide personalized experiences in stores. 62% of customers think that the sales associates don't understand their needs, which is not really surprising. Sales associates have a lot to deal with. They usually haven't received a huge amount of training. They're early in their careers, and they don't know all the customers when they walk in. And the impact that has on the customer is that 39% of customers leave without making a purchase just down to receiving a poor service. So it can have a huge impact on when you're looking to fight for those dollars from the customer. That experience that you can provide them is super important. We're going to test the polls. These will be short and sharp. You'll see a little pop-up on your screen. Just testing the room, really. Really interested in how many of you see challenges in store with creating harmony with the in-store customer experience. Just want to get a sense from the room whether that's top of mind for you or something that you're observing. It's working. It's good. Seeing answers come in. Make it short and sharp. Cool. So we're seeing yeses and maybes, and then a couple of no's. I think we are sharing the results, so you'll see the results of those come through as well. So broadly, yes, or not sure. It's interesting. That's sort of similar to what we hear from our clients as well. And that relates to our mission. Not some of you will know Lexer. I'm not going to spend a huge amount talking about what we do, but for those that don't, really Lexer's mission is to transform retail by unlocking that asset that McKinsey cited as being so important, which is your first party customer data. We exist to help brands and retailers to know their customers and really do more, make that more than theoretical. Unlock that data to grow sales through experiences. They can be AI-powered customer engagement experiences, and it doesn't matter whether it's online or in store. We really want to help our brands and clients use that data to provide that experience wherever the customer is. So let's move into the first example, which is in store. So how unlocking customer data can actually boost your retail sales. And I'm going to talk through a concept called clienteling. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have not. But it's a reasonably simple concept. It's a technique used by the actual sales associates in store to help form long-term relationships with their customers based on the relationship of that customer with the brand. And the reason that brands are using clienteling is they're really looking to influence the customer shopping behavior, the frequency of visit to the brand, whether that's in store or online. And they're looking to influence positively the average transaction value when they do shop, and obviously move up customer experience and satisfaction so that they do become the brand of preference. There's a few examples of brands that are using it really effectively on the right-hand side. And what they're finding overwhelmingly is that clienteling adds that layer of personal touch. It takes away a lot of that pain around the fact that sales associates don't understand the customer, and the customer has to spend a lot of time explaining who they are and what they bought previously, and shortcuts that so the sales associates can actually guide the customer much more effectively and create a better experience for the customer. Now, the benefits it can provide you is it can obviously empower those teams. It puts information in the hands of the sales associates. So they're actually empowered to now guide the customer experience through the rich information in front of them. It also provides opportunities post-visit. So not only can they make the actual engagement with the customer much higher value, it allows opportunities for post-visit messaging, attributing store visits to online sales. And so much information happens in those exchanges that allows the sales associates to capture some information to understand the reason for visit for the customer, preferences from that customer that can be used for future use by the brands as well. And a key part of that is the greeting to the customer. So quite often how you greet the customer leads through to how you can then engage that experience. So we sort of promote have you shopped with us before as that greeting with the customer. They're going to say yes or no. And that leads you to a path where you can either say, hey, can I help you by pulling up your profile if you have, or can I give you an incentive? Can I give you a 10% discount, create a profile for you today? And that leads you into that clienteling experience. Again, quick poll, really curious as to how many of you are using this today, maybe thinking about using it. And the critical thing here is this isn't a point of sale. This is happening at the greeting. So the key part of clienteling is it's happening when sales associates greet the customers, not at the point where the customer's already made a decision that they're going to purchase. Seeing a reasonably even spread here. Okay. So most know, or maybe, and a few that are. So it's not new to everyone, which is great to hear. I'll talk you through a little bit just how that journey looks. What is the flow for clienteling? The first part is registering. It's an opportunity to register every visit when the customer walks into a store. So I mentioned that the customer is greeted, have you shopped with us before? as soon as they are either you create a new profile for a new customer or you pull up a profile for an existing customer, they're checked into the store. So it's logged. You can see an example on the left there. It's logged that they visited the store. So you capture the store visit, you capture which store they visited and when, and how long they actually stay in the store for as well. And it goes down to the sales associate level. So also you understand which sales associates serve that customer on that given day. This is an example of our clienteling tool and an actual customer profile within it. This is a customer who's shopped with Fitness Co., a fake retailer before, Alex Hooper. And this is an example of the sort of information that the sales associate would see. So we present some information about the customer, which is there to help guide the sales associate. So you'll see the colored boxes at the top are some of the segments that Alex is a part of. So Alex is a yoga enthusiast or a yogi. He's bought online before, it's e-commerce. He usually visits the Bondi store in Australia. And very importantly for the sales associate, he's a VIP. So the sales associate has a signal straight away that this customer is actually one that has a really high customer lifetime value with the brand and is worth spending a bit more time with, maybe worth giving the VIP experience. And then there's some more information underneath those segments, such as the total spend with the brand, the first and last order. So you've got a sense of the lifetime history with the brand, the loyalty status, and how much they usually spend when they shop, which is another great signal for how much time you might want to spend with them. Some people shop infrequently in high amounts. Some people shop frequently with low amounts. And underneath then it's a imagery of the products that Alex has bought. So at a very quick glance, you can get a sense for the sort of products that Alex buys when they shop. And then there's a history of those as well, that you can understand the history of those purchases for Alex. Now, this really starts to bring offline and online together. You're bringing their online history into an offline environment. You're equipping these sales teams with previous offline and online history to guide and make recommendations to optimize that in-person experience. And it allows them to recognize those VIPs. Alex was a VIP, and you could have a tailored customer experience that you could use. And VIPs are really, really important. Like the top 5% of your customers in terms of lifetime value will probably make up to about 40% of your total revenue. So retaining those and ensuring they're not one of those customers that has a poor experience and loses satisfaction in the brand is really, really critical to maintain that really, really big base of revenue. And also enables the sales associate to provide those product recommendations based on the preferences and purchase history. This is something which we found to be really important, which maybe we underestimated to begin with, but actually capturing the information from that exchange is so, so important. And if you think about all of the customers that walk into stores, engage with the sales associate, whether they make a purchase or not, all of that is largely not captured, not known, and not able by anyone else within the business to actually be used for anything useful. You know sales and you know footfall, and then there's a huge gap in between those. So having that previous history ensures that valuable customer information from those exchanges isn't lost. So every time a customer comes back into the store, they don't have to repeat themselves to sales associates. You've got the history there to improve that experience for the customer. But also to the second point, it transforms those store visits into actual opportunities to understand more about why customers are shopping with you today. What is their reason for purchasing? What are their preferences? Who were they shopping for? And all of that information can be captured in that exchange, and it flows back into the Lexer customer data platform or your clienteling data platform to enhance all those customer profiles and information you have on those customers. Now, that can be used for general insights about why people come to your stores and what's their reason for purchasing. But it also unlocks really, really rich personalization opportunities to that customer post the visit as well. Another benefit is increased visibility and performance reporting into the stores and into the sales associates. So it allows you to quantify these interactions for actually opportunities for enhancements. Now, at a store level, you'll already know sales performance, but you may not know how many customers are greeted and don't convert to a sale. You may not know how many customers who purchase at that store actually come back and buy from you again versus stores which promote a really strong repeat purchase. And at a sales associate level, it allows you to identify opportunities to actually see gaps, which sales associates are maybe feeling nervous about greeting customers in the first place, which sales associates are actually really strong or not so strong on converting greeted customers to a sale. And so it gives you that data-led insights into those exchanges within sales associates. It also tells you insights into people that don't buy. So what were they shopping for those that don't buy? What is the information about these customers that come into the store and actually it doesn't result into a sale? And how can you then change your strategy and maybe change your retail and store strategy, training strategy to convert more of those? As well as obviously being able to reward those sales associates that are doing a great job in terms of converting customers. It also gives you basically e-commerce level reporting at a store. This is an example from our platform. And those of you that look at website reports all day long, it's really similar to e-commerce reporting. It's telling you the number of visits, gives you a breakdown of new versus returning. So you can see the blue and yellow bars there. The blue blocks down the bottom are new customers versus the yellow sort of 77 for Westfield Miranda that are returning. Tells you the session time, how long are they in the store for, how long are people staying within store. You can ask their reason for visit, so it's capturing the intent of the customer at a store level. And you can see an example of that store level analysis there. You start to see variances between stores and how the actual reporting and how the reasons and the visit duration can actually start to vary between store, which can be used for your retail strategy. And you can also do this, understand the conversion level. So you've got sort of much better attribution, both in the store and post-store visit to e-commerce. So you can understand conversion rates of customers that come into a store, maybe don't buy in the store, but later go and buy online. And you can start to attribute those retail visits to your online conversions and see the influence that retail actually drives in terms of your e-commerce purchases. And again, you can report on all of the metrics you would expect, things like average order value, basket size, orders over time. And you can do this at an individual store level. So you can start to really size the impact of that experience in the store to purchases, not just in the store, but also beyond that as well, and really give you a sense of which stores are really, really strong at converting customers post-visit. You can close the omni-channel loop as well. So yes, you can link in store through to online transactions. Gives a really good reporting of understanding customer behavior. But the personalization opportunities are great as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can use one-to-one messaging in a digital format in the second half, but it's a great opportunity once a customer is checked out to trigger a post-visit interaction for that customer. That can be an NPS survey or feedback survey. It could be a simple thank you message or some recommendations for similar items that they bought. We've seen for a customer that's just started using this simple thank you message for a customer that is actually saying it's really simple thank you for the order they've bought. For any customers that have made through that purchase have actually moved into their really high value customer sort of top 10%. And a simple thank you message from a known individual rather than from a general marketing message from the brand, we're actually seeing a 4% repeat conversion within 7 days of receiving that message. So the power of a personalized message from the sales associate that may have served that customer, the impact can be really, really high. And it just closes that loop from store visit, digital message, could be back to an e-commerce purchase through that. So you're sort of linking the information and the experiences between those, which we're starting to see early signs. These are new products for us. We've launched this one in the last quarter or so. We're starting to see really early signs for how that experience between online and offline can be consistent and personal, and the sort of impact that we can see. Really want to understand another poll in terms of what is most important to you. I mentioned 3 value propositions. One is the in-person experience to actually grow sales. Another one is insights into the stores and sales associate performance, which is quite often a blind spot. And then thirdly, that data that you can capture. You've probably got a lot of thoughts and ideas about how you can use that, how that can feed into insights to drive your business, how you can use that, can feed into your marketing teams, how they've probably got a few marketers on the call that would love to have some of this information and run campaigns to people based on this. Fantastic. So clear win for grow sales in retail, with a few for capture that information and use in the future. I just want to share a quick case study. This is, like I said, this is quite a new product for us. So our version Lexer Serve, which is an in-store clienteling tool. This is the first customer that we converted onto the platform. They're an Australian brand called The Upside, and they've seen pretty promising results through the early stages of using the product. See an example on the right there. They're a activewear and leisure retailer, and they were facing all the same challenges that I mentioned at the top of the webinar. They've sensed the challenges. They're having to work harder to get sales. And so they really wanted to provide a better experience to their customers to drive up engagement and ultimately sales. And they saw some really impressive results in using the product. So they worked really hard on greeting customers, tried to greet every customer as they entered the store to capture that information. And they saw a 75% conversion rate from greeting to sale. So 3/4 of customers that were greeted when they walked into the store actually made a sale. The average order values, the amount that the customer actually spent per visit, was 13% higher versus those that weren't greeted and went through the clienteling experiences. They also saw something interesting, which is 71% of the people they checked in were new. And they were offering customers that were new to the brand, similar to online, where everyone sees that, everyone, I'm sure, uses the sign up to our list and we'll give you 10% off your purchase. They were using a similar strategy in store. And that was a really, really strong lever in driving new customers to convert in store as well, leading to pretty sizable new revenue number for them of 135,000. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. We spoke about how you can use in-person physical experiences in store, use the customer data to improve that experience. We're now going to move to sort of digital and one-to-one messaging. I mentioned it earlier on, how you can actually combine that with the in-store experience, but I want to share a few things on how powerful one-to-one messaging can be. So this isn't one-to-many through your email marketing campaigns. This is a little bit more personalized. You're not going to be able to use it for all of your customers, but it's another tactic and tool that you can use that we're seeing as being really impactful. And here's a home truth for retailers. Not all your customers are equal. Your top 20% in terms of customer lifetime value will almost always generate between 60 and 80% of your revenue each year. So those top 20% of customers are not worth the same as those that are not in that top 20%. However, many brands are not showing this top 20% the love that they deserve. They're not spending a proportionally higher amount of time on these customers versus those that aren't in the top 20%. The opportunity is that if you can efficiently engage these VIP customers with personalized one-to-one messaging to show them, the love they deserve, that's the opportunity. But it's hard. Like thinking about what it takes to do that, it's really, really hard to scale. Like you don't have teams of copywriters hang around crafting one-to-one messages. It's hard to have a really consistent brand voice and tone when lots of people are having to message customers, and it takes too long. How are you going to write out one-to-one messages for potentially thousands of customers? It's too costly to scale, and no retailer I've spoken to have the teams that are able to do this, and can afford to have those teams to manage doing this at scale. And with that, I'm curious as to how you think about those VIP customers today, that top 20%. Do you show them extra love? Are they treated really broadly the same as all of your customers? Or is it something where you're able to spend a bit of time, a bit of effort, but not as much as you would like? Yep, the results are coming through as I expected. So most probably don't have the time to show these guys, these VIP customers, the extra love, or even treating them the same as all of their other customers. Now, here's some ways that you can show your customers the love they deserve. You can show them highly personalized one-to-one messages. It will foster loyalty. It will grow lifetime value. But those messages have to be relevant. They have to be tailored for each individual customer. You want to include their name. You want to include the information about them. You want to celebrate their loyalty to the brand. And obviously, they've got to be relevant. They've got to be centered moments that are in tune with the customer's experience with the brand as well. We sort of see two main pathways, if you like, or scenarios where that one-to-one messaging is most powerful and most worthwhile in terms of time spent. One is growing and retain your existing VIPs and ensuring that they remain loyal customers. The other is identifying new customers to the brand that are showing indicators of high value. They're showing indicators early on. Potentially they've spent a lot in their first purchase. Potentially they're buying items which are linked with customers that become really valuable customers, and actually accelerating that path to them to become your VIP and your great customers. In both instances, you want to provide tailored offers and special experiences to them, but the outcomes are slightly different. For VIPs, it's retention and driving that advocacy and ensuring you instill that power that they have to tell all their friends about how much they love the brand. With the new customers, it's accelerating that growth so that they can become VIPs as well. And making that time between where they are now and VIP is much shorter than it is today. I'm going to show another couple of examples of our platform in terms of how we're doing this. Again, this is a new product for us. We launched it a month ago. So we've got a few clients testing it right now. And I just want to show sort of how it works in our environment. And the first thing I need to do for you to understand that is to introduce Lexi. Now, Lexi is not a person. Lexi is our AI tool that sits within our product. There's two ways that Lexi is really, really powerful in terms of how you can do one-to-one messaging. The first is informing Lexi your brand tone. So if you look at the screen grab on the right there, the middle box says brand tone. It is critical that Lexi understands the tone of your brand with how you communicate with your customers. So for Fitness Co, the same example I was using earlier, their tone is friendly, youthful, fun-loving, and supportive. It's very much part of a fitness community. We're on this journey together. Different brands will have very different tones. If this tone is not fed in, it's not going to sound like it's coming from someone who works at your your brand, it's either going to be very generic and very boring. So it's really, really important at the first step that you feed in how you want those messages to sound. So that's the first step in informing Lexi how you can start to craft these messages. And if we skip forward a bit, I'm using the example of nurture here. So before I got to this stage here, I've created an audience of customers who have just made their first purchase with the brand, and they've spent quite a lot. So they've spent much more than average order value in that first purchase. And I want to follow up with these customers to accelerate them to become a VIP. Now, you can see here, I'm writing a brief for what I want that message to have. So the sales associate who's going to send this out has put in a few bullet points, not too long. They're thanking them for the purchase. They're welcoming them to the brand. They're asking if they're enjoying the product they purchased. So using personalization, opportunity to form a dialogue. And they're recommending some products that the AI tool knows that people who buy that product also buy. So they're recommending some products that might be relevant to go with that purchase. And they're telling them they're here to help. The profile attributes they need to use when they send this to a customer is their first name, what they bought in their first order, and the recommended product categories that they'll need to include. Now, the next step they can do is then actually preview that message to see how it looks. So Judah Huddy is a customer who has made an order in the last 15 days, first order with the brand. Judah has spent $175 nearly. And Aaron Wallace, the store manager, is the one that will be sending out this message. And you can see based on the brief and the brand tone, how the AI has auto-generated a message to Judah. The thank you is there. The product that they've mentioned is there. It's saying how happy they are to have them as part of that community, which goes back to the brand tone, embracing fun fitness. And it's asking about the product, recommending some, and saying, we're here to help you if you need. So this will come from the store manager's email account. It can be based, each sales associate can have their own, they can message their own customers. That makes a lot more sense. So this will come from an individual. It's not coming from the brand. This will go to Judah in their inbox from the individual who works at Fitness Co. There are opportunities to edit this before you send it. You can go back and change the brief and the brand tone if you don't like the way the message is coming together. And no messages are sent out without that actual individual saying, that's a good message, send that out, send it. And you'll see an example here of how it works for a whole segment. So these are all customers that fit in that early purchase, high average order value customers. And these are all the messages that have been generated en masse for all the customers that sit within the segment. So if I'm Aaron Wallace and I'm going through these at the end of the day, I can view them and I can click send. If I don't like the message or I don't want to send it, I can skip it. I can make some tweaks and edits in the text if I want to. But broadly, if you're happy with the brief and the brand tone, most of these messages will be on point. And then you can send a lot of messages in a reasonably short space of time. For us, early customers that are using this are encouraging their sales associates to spend about an hour a day to go through these and send messages. And you can't do it for your entire audience base. You can see a few segments on the left-hand side there, which are sort of the to-do and count. They've got about 10 segments with a few hundred in each of those, and different people will be charged with going through those. This is not replacing your email marketing. This is complementing it. You don't want to be doing this for all of your customers. It will soon become very generic, and you won't be able to spend the time and care to do so. In terms of impact, I mentioned earlier on the customer that's using this to a simple thank you message for someone that's just become a high value customer, that they're getting a 4% conversion rate for those within 7 days. So we're seeing really, really good signs in terms of the ROI of time in and reward out. But these are the sort of metrics within your business that you would look to improve with this. Grow customer lifetime value, really increase that customer engagement and satisfaction. And through engagement, if a customer responds, you can also go and respond to that customer and go into more of a dialogue with them as well. You clearly want to increase average order value when they shop with you. the number of customers that are actually buying online and in store through closing that loop and encouraging them, people that are bought in store to buy similar products online and guiding them as to what they might like. And it's a big retention play. You're looking to really, really build on loyalty and advocacy for the customers that are important to you. Through doing that, you should reduce your churned amount of customers. You should reduce your reliance on having to use paid media to acquire new customers. And therefore, you should be able to protect your margins a lot more, both through not having to spend more on digital marketing to bring in more customers, and through the need to drive promotions and discounts to drive customers to purchase, because you're creating a much better cycle through this experience of customers actually being driven to purchase with you through very, very simple, short actions that the customer needs to take. If you're a customer, you receive a thank you message, makes you feel special, increases your endorphins and relationship with the brand in that moment. And if there's a couple of relevant products in there or something which really matters, then you're much more likely to look at those at that moment and hopefully go through them and make that purchase, which is what we're starting to see. Like I said, this isn't easy. This isn't something that almost any retailer I've spoken to is equipped to do at scale. There are challenges with it. Really, really keen to understand what's holding you back today to be able to do this. It could range from just knowing who you'd want to message, through to the time taken to do it, through to the skills that are required in the teams to be able to do it effectively, through to actually managing and actually managing doing it. What we see when people do it is it tends to happen all locked at an individual sales associate level. So you don't know how much they're doing of it, and you're not able to hold any of them to account. You're not able to understand which customers have been messaged and which ones haven't, because individual sales associates are maybe using WhatsApp from their personal devices, and it's happening in silos that we can't monitor and measure. Time and a worry about consistency of message. Yeah. Thanks, guys. That's really interesting. Okay, we do have a Q&A, but in summary, just I've given you a lot of information in a short space of time, but just taking a breath. With times as they are right now, where customers aren't flush with their cash, customer experience is a critical differentiator. Most of your customer engagements and experiences happen in your stores, and you need to be able to arm your sales associates appropriately to ensure those experiences are positive. There is high value in going the extra mile for your customers, especially those that are responsible for 80% of your revenue base today. But you've got to be efficient. You've got to maximize that impact with efficiency. You've got to think about which investments will actually drive impact, but are not going to overburden your resource. And you've got to think about how much investment you can really, really make to do this. Like I said, you can't arm up maybe huge amount of teams and buy hugely expensive software. So you've got to think about how that impact and efficiency trades off with each other. Are there any questions? I will look at the chat. We've got a few minutes. If there are any questions, please come through and put them in the chat, or you can shout out. I'll leave you to think. You can still ask some. If you'd like to see your data actually come to life and see how those experiences might look with your customer data, if you're on Shopify, we're able to actually do this with no commitment. So we could show you how the in-store tool would look with your customer data, how the AI-powered messaging would work with your customer data, and also all of the insights that Lexer as a CDP that I haven't really spoken about today can provide you. If you're interested in that, please scan the QR code and we can organize a completely commitment-free demo for that. For those that aren't on Shopify, we can still do a really, really tailored demo to what you would like to see. We'll use examples from brands that are similar to you. We will show all of the product and we'll focus in on the zones that matter most to you. You will be able to use the link with WooCommerce as well. What we can show in the demo, we'll follow up with you on. But yes, for those that are scanning the QR code, if you're not on Shopify, I know it comes up saying Shopify, we'll still be able to show you the product and show you things that are relevant. See a question just come through from Nadia. Any in-store tracking tech that you'd recommend to mitigate the human error for sales? So Nadia, I might get you to expand a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
That's
I got trigger happy and that's went through.
okay. It's okay.
So I was wondering, since like a segment for to consolidate this data in store is very much reliant on the sales assistant, right? And know whether they can get enough information on the customer.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience, or would you recommend any like in-store tracking tools? I know they do like cameras
Yeah.
tracking, facial recognition, and how would that complement and work with Lexus platform?
Yeah, I see them as complementary, Nadia. So the cameras, footfall, as you mentioned, they give you an aggregate overall view. As you say, not every customer is going to be able to be greeted by the sales assistant. Some customers don't want to share their information. So those footfall cameras give you a really broad brush view of demographic, volumes, busy times of day, and they are still really, really important. I don't think clienteling replaces that. I think it complements it. What you don't get from the cameras is the motivation for the customer, the ability to obviously guide that sales experience. And that's where clienteling supports it. It gives you more granular information, and it gives the sales associate information. The cameras, they know when's busy. They don't really care about the demographic they're walking into the store. They want to be able to have a really authentic, rich experience with the customer. And if they're on commission, they want to grow sales. So that's where clienteling supports them. So I see them as really, really complementary. It's a really good question. This doesn't replace it. The only way it could ever replace it is if you could greet every single customer that walks into the store. And probably that's only the really, really high-end brands that are going to get close to that, like the luxury brands that have 7 customers a day. They're the only ones that you might get to that point. For the average retailer who are getting 50 to 100 plus a day, you're not going to be able to cover that same sort of customer volume with that.
Right, thanks.
I had another question from Dinesh. Does the tool work with TikTok and WhatsApp? So today, the one-to-one messaging tool works with email only. We will have WhatsApp very, very soon. I mentioned we launched it 1st of Feb. We actually launched it with clients. SMS and WhatsApp are in the roadmap to be in the platform by the end of April. Now, TikTok, you can't do one-to-one messaging through TikTok. We already can push segments of audiences, so you can target groups within TikTok, just like you would do with your paid messaging, where you're uploading audiences into those. So you would use your segmented audiences that you would push into TikTok for that. So the one-to-one channels we support right now, email, SMS, WhatsApp, and almost certainly all the other, for those in Southeast Asia, that will include Viber, Line, etc. as well, so that we can reach customers on the channels that they really want to engage on. Thank you, Hazana. How do you gather the in-store engagement data prior to the purchase? For example, shoppers who visited but didn't buy. Good question. So this, for any clienteling tool, it is as useful as the data that you have on your customers. So if you've never seen the customer before, or they've visited the store, but you have never been able to identify them before, you won't have any information on the customer. But for example, let's say they come into the store and you create a new profile for them. They may not buy, but you still might gather information from that exchange, such as their reason for buying, such as some of the products they are interested in. You could still follow up with maybe a survey or a reminder, a thank you for those to promote a sale. But you won't have a rich amount of information on that customer. So you will be looking to nurture that engagement, and you're looking to capture as much information from the exchange as possible, so that you can start to understand who are these customers that are coming in and checking in prior to visiting the store. If they bought anything online, that will still be in the profile. So it'll be linking up any other store sale or any other e-commerce sales. But if they're essentially a customer where you've captured no information, or they're a new customer, you won't have any information on them. I hope that answered your question, Mukund.
Hey, hi, Ben. This is Mukund here. Are you able to hear me all right?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Mukund?
Hi. I just want to share a little bit more context on the question, so it's a little bit clearer on what I'm trying to ask. Thanks so much for the answer. I think it makes a lot of sense. The part that I wanted to clarify is, I understand, let's say a new customer walks into the store and one of the salesperson, gathers the initial information to create the first time profile. Thereafter, the customer is kind of walking around in the store, looking at a lot of things. How is that data? Does it require the sales assistant to, tag along with the customer and gather?
Yep. It's a really, really good. I understand you now, Mukund. Thank you for expanding. That's a really, really good question. So it doesn't require the sales assistant to tag along, and you don't want your sales assistant goose stepping behind all your customers, scribbling down everything they're doing, looking at your shoulder, right? But it can happen quite passively. So if you greet the customer and they say, "Oh yeah, I'll create a profile. I'm just going to browse for a bit," that's fine. And you see them spending a lot of time maybe looking at a certain product. The way this works is it's a tablet that sits in the sales associate's hand. So they'll have the tablet with them at the back of the store. Now, when they're talking to the customer, they'll want that tablet with that information in their hand so that they can use that information. If they're back at the store and the customer's doing their thing, they could be passively observing some potentially relevant signals, such as, wow, they're looking at those expensive items, and they can add that to the profile. So what we actually, in our version of the tool, what we do is we have a list of forms, that the sales assistant can use to add some information. And that can be really simple, such as what gender is the customer, or which products did the customer show high interest in. You don't need to be following the customer. You don't need to ask the customer some of those. It can just be observations that the sales associate adds to the profile. And then when the customer leaves the store, potentially without buying, they check them out of the store, and you still got that information. So it's still sales associate led, but you don't have to be directly engaging with the customer, asking them, and you don't have to be following them. You can look up, observe a couple of things, think that's actually quite interesting. That's one of our most expensive items, or we know that people that buy that often become really loyal customers, and you could attach that to the profile. You don't need to attach everything, but that sort of example could be there. But you don't need to be following them. You don't need to be asking the customer all of the questions, because it'll come out of the exchange a lot of the time. Or you'll observe it by the way that the customer's showing interest in the way that they move around the store.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. That answers it. Thanks so much for the very long answer. Appreciate it.
No problem. Love the question. Thank you. Guys, just before you leave, there will be a quick survey. We're doing a series of webinars. We'd love to know if this was useful, what else you'd love to know. We are always hungry for feedback. It's a really, really quick survey. Will come up. If you wouldn't mind filling that in, it would be massively valuable. You can find me on LinkedIn. For those that aren't already connected, any messages you have, just ping me. It's Ben Moreau, Moreau. Be happy to take questions post the webinar as well. And thank you all so much for joining. Really, really good questions. Thank you.